IVM.
Hey everybody, welcome to an episode of the Geek Food Podcast.
Oh, that's harsh. It's not even special anymore?
Yeah, your entire thing was saying very special episode of the Geek Fruit Podcast.
Very aware of how I phrased that sentence.
So good.
It's me, Tejas, Jishnu, and Dinkar. Hi, boys.
Hello.
Sup, y'all?
So, if it was not already clear by the messaging that we have put out on social media, which at the time of this recording we have not. So it's not out there for us three, but when this episode goes out and somebody's listening to it, there must be a clear indicator to what the next phase of Geek Fruit is going to be like, particularly in this case, the podcast. So if you haven't heard it, somehow you chanced upon this episode because you're a subscriber. Thank you very much. And you've just switched on the thing. The title of the episode is Geek Fruit Reviews the Geek Fruit Podcast. But of course, there is a special reason why we're doing that. And that is because it is oh gosh, how do I even broach this? But we have come to a point in the
decided
career
not to approach it
of
at all.
yeah, we approached a point in the career of Geek Fruit, and we are vastly, it's time for aggressive expansion. If I may quote the Joker in The Dark Knight, and so we decided to put the podcast on a small but indefinite hiatus, and yeah, so we are going to be counting down to the 3 final episodes before we go on said hiatus. This is the first of the 3. The first episode, which is Geek Fruit Reviews, the Geek Fruit Podcast. Jishnu and Dinkar, why are we doing this?
देखो दोस्तों, लाइफ में कभी-कभी होता है कि हम सोचते हैं कि क्या हो सकता है और
It's what Jishnu is trying to say is that it's college का आखिरी दिन है दोस्तों.
This is why we're shutting down the podcast, because we can't afford the rights to all the musical parodies we do.
And we do a lot of that.
That's true.
Dinkar, why are we doing this?
May I put it simply? We have done a lot of episodes of the Geek Fruit Podcast, and we have said a lot on the Geek Fruit Podcast. We've literally spoken an hour plus every week for several weeks and over 300 episodes. So we're going to take the considerable talents that we have. Well, not really. We want to take our ideas and try them in different mediums and figure out what we want to do in those. So we'll be doing videos, we'll be doing social media stuff, we'll be doing a newsletter. There's just a lot of other stuff we want to try. So we're going to focus on that. And also we want to expand the family and bring in more of you, our community, to be a part of this. So when the podcast eventually returns at some point, it might be a slightly different beast. But rest assured, it will be back at some point. This is not a goodbye. It's more like a see you around.
See you later.
Yeah.
That's like the movie John Q with Denzel Washington when he...
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a, hey, Dad, we don't say goodbye, we say see you later. And I was like, cool, all right, that's a good way to phrase it. Nice.
We're entering phase 2.
Simply put. Phase 2, yes. Jishnu, thoughts, please.
लाइफ में कभी होता है कि हम सोचते हैं कि we have said much और अब enough now. Yeah,
what he said. Out of a plane and then we're like, wait, we need parachutes?
What he said, we've done this for 5 years, right? Is it 5? I don't know.
It has been 5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 5 years. With The Force Awakening, The Force is now
went back to sleep.
Has taken a nap, a cat nap. But much like that, it is not over. It is merely on, let's use that phrase again, indefinite hiatus. But to be fair, you're going to see a lot more of us just as regularly. So it's really just this particular medium that we're laying to rest for a little bit. So it's exciting times. It is exciting. It's as sad as it is exciting. It's
Yeah, but I don't want to remove the emotion from it completely. Yes, it is it's a sad thing that, we've done this show for so long, as you know. I also find it very pertinent that in the quarantine, while there are a million new podcasts just getting off the ground, we have decided to kind of put ours to bed for a bit. So
I mean, that makes all the more sense to me. Where the OG hipsters were like, oh, all of you guys are doing it now? We're out.
Now we're done. It's so true though. We did, I want to give us a little bit of credit for starting as early as we did. Not too much credit, but just a little bit. We did kind of see a whole wave of new shows which are, amazing and well produced. And, a lot of our friends are doing podcasts now. So we've been doing this for a few. But I don't wish to wax poetic just yet. We have 2 more episodes to do that. And possibly with some familiar voices that will make their way onto the show to kind of...
Hello, I'm Dinkar. I might be a familiar voice to you from over 300 episodes of The Geek. Is this my cue? This was my cue, right?
No, it was not even supposed to be in this episode or you. Anyway, but I will say this, that this episode, we're going to take a second to review the Geek Food podcast because, as you know, like we've been saying, that we have done very many episodes, too many episodes, 300 so this is our 338th episode, and that's quite a few episodes. So we want to just maybe look back and maybe talk about some of our favorite episodes, but also, and before we get into the episode, I want to just quickly ask all of you listeners, whoever's out there who has enjoyed this podcast, please write into us telling us about what you enjoyed about the show. Maybe you can talk about some of your favorite episodes. We would really love to know at this juncture. You can put it on our social media. We're going to be putting out some posts asking you guys about, your favorite episodes or what you've really enjoyed about this show. But we can also receive mails like we always used to. Contact geekfood@gmail.com is where you need to send your mails. It would be really nice to hear from you guys. And if you don't send anything, we will be extremely sad and probably give us more reason to, sit this one down and focus on other things. All right. Cool. So, Jishnu, Dinkar, tell us about this podcast, man.
What's your favorite moment of the Geek Food podcast, Jishnu?
I don't even know. It's all a blur. I like when we talked about the things before they happened. That's the thing we stopped doing at some point in time.
That's not true.
Yeah, no, I think it is. We're
going to end this show in about 3 episodes, and we're talking about it before it happens.
Well, we used to dedicate an entire episode on occasion to speculating about a movie around the corner. That died out pretty quick. I think for perfectly good reason. But that was a fun time. If I recall, like speaking of the mothership, when it came to TFA, we did. I want to say the very first podcast was just before it came out, right?
Yes.
And then the second episode was after it came out. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, exactly that.
So the first episode was in 2015. The second episode was in 2016, and that was a fun time. Just sort of using the podcast as genuinely a ventilation chamber, just speaking nonsense into the ether without any particular, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? Any particular backing for what we're talking about. We didn't do that for much longer than that. So I guess I'm really just talking about the one. Literally, I'm talking about episode 0. That was a fun time. Remember that? That was great.
No, wait 1 second. I think I shall take the liberty to pull out in the coming 2 episodes that we have remaining, we'll pull out some of the wildly incorrect predictions we may have had and the speculation, I want to say, for all the films and the movies that are now out. All the things that we were hoping for. Oh man, it would be amazing if all the Avengers came together. It happened. Oh my God, it'd be amazing if Game of Thrones ended perfectly. Maybe we lost out on some of those. But my point is that, we got to see the ending of Star Wars, at least for the time being. And whatever thoughts we may have had on it, like whatever predictions, I'm sure we can compile those and then laugh at ourselves for being so wildly incorrect again. Speculation has always been a part of the podcast.
I still remember putting a lot of money on the droids fighting it.
They half-assed that. I mean, we'll get into it. All right, let's take a quick break. We're going to come back and then Dinkar is going to tell us about his favorite moment in the entire 338 episodes. All right, we'll be back.
Hey everybody, welcome to another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you're not following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, as I'm sure you know by now. I would like to thank our sponsors this week, Paytm Money and Intel. They've been extraordinary sponsors and we couldn't appreciate them more. It's been a really, really cool week on the network. We've had Ashwin Sanghi on Cyrus Says. We had Masaba Gupta on Advertising is Dead. You should definitely check out Vivek Lath, who showed up on Storytellers and Story Sellers. A close friend and partner of ours, Karthik Parija, was on the Pragati Podcast talking about the future of podcasting, which I think is only really interesting. And I would like to ask people to check out All Things Policy and what they've been doing. They've been having some really interesting discussions about India's challenging relationship with China as we go forward, and I think that would be a great thing for you guys to check out. So with that, let's get you back to your show.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Geek Fruit Reviews, the Geek Fruit Podcast. Dinkar, what was your favorite moment in the entire history of this show? I just want one joke, which you found entertaining. That's it.
Why is it
Just
my
one.
responsibility to come up with the one joke? First of all,
Because I said it before the ad break.
there have been several brilliant jokes, if I may say so myself, throughout the run of the Geek Fruit Podcast. But if we're talking about my favorite moment, it might be... wait. My honorable mentions. If we're talking about jokes, I want to give a special shout out.
Yeah. I'm just kidding. You can talk about all the number of jokes that you liked, and then we'll go in order.
Wow.
Sorry.
This was the joke that hurt the most, may I say. I want to give a special shout out to a couple of things that we do that I greatly enjoy. Our episode titles have always been a little Easter egg that has always entertained me. So I'm just going to shout out some of my... in fact, I'm not even going to shout out some of my favorite ones. I'm just going to pick at random, and this will give you a glimpse of the quality of what we do. So there is Sci-Fly Under the Radar, where you and I spoke about underrated sci-fi films. There is Mard Ko Words Nahi Hota, where I expressed my disbelief at Mard Ko Dard Nahi Hota being a film that exists. There's Fantastic Pharrells and Where to Find Them, which was our bulletin episode where we discovered that Colin Farrell was going to be...
I'm also going to...
This is actually my favorite. A Russian Doll episode where the title is Russian and then a nested parentheses that says Russian and another nested parentheses that says Russian, doll. We broke the algorithm of some site, I'm sure, when we came up with a title like that.
Absolutely. I actually love all these titles. These titles
Way
are
to
great.
go, Babushka.
My favorite, one of my favorites, new DP for the review for Deadpool 2. So good. Yeah. There's some fun,
I'm literally just scrolling at random and finding just great. Sometimes it's a dumb pun. Sometimes it's a reference to something really cool. Ooh, thanks T. Hanks. Come on.
Thanks T. Hanks is great.
A Tom Hanks retrospective. Solid.
Yeah, I love a lot of these. These are great. Oh my god, there's one. This one's quite funny, but and we'll talk about this episode maybe. But the crimes of Grindelwald is great. Then the Little Momoa Maid, very good, good, very very excellent. Okay, all right. So yeah,
here's a good one. Fish in ships. Because we were talking about Finding Dory in some sort of space movie. Oh, yeah. Because we were talking about Independence Day Resurgence and Finding Dory.
Whoa.
Nice.
Fish and ships. Come on.
Yeah, there's some solid ones.
You gotta give it up.
Gets it right. Order of the Dark Phoenix.
Finding Pullman.
This is great.
Nice.
Some solid ones in there. Getting to Know Shlok, a classic.
That brings me to another thing that I enjoy about our show is the fact that we've had a litany of producers at this point. I think the count currently stands at 8 or 9. And they have all uniformly been very, very interesting and very entertaining people. So when we have them on the show...
Very well put.
I didn't say I like all of them. Y'all know who you are. I pointed it out.
Sid.
Yeah.
Okay,
if I'm being completely honest, I only really like Shlok because he got me a cake once. F*** all the rest of you.
This is true.
But we started doing these episodes where we would just bring them on and have a little chit-chat with them with the title Getting to Know Blank. So there's Getting to Know Shlok, there's Getting to Know Darius, there's Getting to Know Janam, I think. And those are pretty interesting because it's just like we sit them down and go like, hey, so talk to us. And it always surprises me how familiar they are with the kind of thing we talk about, but in a parallel way. So that's always interesting to me. So, for example,
are you saying other people have different opinions on things than us three?
It's not just the fact that they have different opinions; it's that they approach them so differently. And just that, like, basically the two worlds meeting is, I think, uniformly interesting. Like Janam, for example, when she started out with us, was pretty much only into human centipede movies, as far as I know. And,
yes, I heard about this one.
Yeah,
and I heard that one.
And now Jishnu's, Jishnu is also
then outed himself also as a huge human centipede.
I know, and who would have thought?
You're saying
like,
outed like I'm ashamed
and she was
of it.
like, "Yeah, I have seen all the human centipede movies."
No, let me put it this way, Jishnu. There was a time
I just found a reason to talk
I didn't
about
know you were a human centipede fan, and then after that episode, I was like, "This guy likes human centipede."
Or a Paranormal Activity.
That's how things
fan.
work.
Yeah, or a Saw fan.
Yeah.
Again, we're talking sequels, not Saw 1, not Saw 2.
Yeah.
Saw 3 onwards is when Jishnu's like zone happens.
This is true.
Yeah. One of my favorite thing also about this about our show, if we may backpat all throughout this.
I mean,
episode.
that's what this episode is.
Yes.
This is just we're just cosplaying Julie
reviewing.
Andrews talking about our favorite things right now. That's all we're doing.
We were saying we would review, and a review not necessarily we have to give a score to this show at the end of it, like something on 10. Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna run down the list of every episode from 0 to 300 and change.
I was thinking of doing that, but I thought Jishnu was going to oppose me. But let's go.
You're just going to say numbers. Episode 0, 1 to 10, go. How much?
10.
Episode 1, how much? Okay, we've already lost the plot. Cool. No, that was fun.
Well, I didn't know you wanted a ranking of each one, because honestly, I can't rank them. They're all my children. But I'm pretty sure I can distinctly tell you about every episode that... almost every episode. I can't say every episode. I can't remember Fish and Chips Resurgence, but that's because I wasn't.
I don't remember shit.
I remember a lot. In fact, so that
I remember a lot. Yes. Also,
I will point out not a funny moment, but among the many episodes that I enjoy. Actually, a funny moment would be when Jishnu steamrolled me by refusing to talk about ghosts on the episode we decided to talk about ghosts, and instead recount the plots of all the Paranormal Activity movies. I think in grossly unnecessary detail. I believe it ends with
one of my favorite things about this show is Jishnu accosting you for several things over the last 5 years. One of my favorite ones was when it turned out that you were reading not the Oscar winners, but Ruchi's picks for who the Oscar winners were.
Jishnu was doing that.
Yeah, I was doing that. That's totally a me thing to do.
Why did it
Because I
feel
don't
like
have a damn clue.
You were, I don't know, somehow my memories of Jishnu still getting angry with you for that.
He did it. See, this is the thing.
That was so funny.
Jishnu just managed to deflect the blame on me. In fact, I bet it's Jishnu who
succeeded.
did that.
Succeeded, straight up.
Yeah,
he got it. He did it. He did it successfully.
So easy. Yeah. Jishnu. Jishnu fucks up and then points a finger at me. You know, he was on that Rajnikant episode we did and he miscalculated the budget for that movie and then pretended it was me all along.
Oh God, no. I was obviously the opposite because I remember that very clearly because that was the thing that spawned Dink's army, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so. Yes.
That was the immediate
tell.
Cause. Yeah, of course. Like that was the
what specifically?
The misnomer that launched 1,000
Oh, actually,
tweets.
was it that or was it Sudeep's email?
I think Sudeep's email was because of that.
Why did he email you?
Like that?
It was around the same time, but Sudeep's email was like maybe a week or two after.
You say around the same time. I say inextricably tied together.
Possibly, we'll have to dig up that email. But yes, that is the series of events that spawned the Dink's army.
Yes. So Dink's army, tell me what is happening with Dink's army, Jishnu?
My name is not Dinkar. I don't know.
Yeah, I said what is happening with I'm speaking now to the leader of Dink's army, Jishnu. Tell us about Dink's army. What's happening?
I'm not I am.
You literally came to Halloween as the leader
no.
of Dink's army.
I was a mere conscript. I take no responsibility for what Dink's army does or did. But no, I believe at the moment Dink's army is set to simmer.
Okay.
They've had a parlay with what is it, Team Sudeep? I don't know, whatever they are.
Yeah, I think it's
But,
Team Sudeep.
Team Suds.
Team Suds.
I
Yeah.
don't know,
they've
do you need a
parlayed
name
and
for a
are-
failed project? Doesn't matter.
Oh, okay.
No shade
All
to
right, all
Sudeep.
right.
He's an honored member of Dink's Army now.
Listen, I found I think it was at Halloween. Oh no, it was at some gig we were at. I think maybe a Light Years gig that Jishnu was playing. So I was at the bar above the Habitat, and on the left of me was Sudeep, who said, "Hey, let's get a drink." And then lo and behold appears Dinkar, and obviously these two haven't met before. And I just look left, and then I look right, and I'm just like, "Oh my god, wow, what a moment!" And the rest is history. Here's another really funny title. Episode 62. So Swagnito.
Nice.
Ooh,
Okay.
I also, wait, hang on. I got to tell you one more thing about Ding Sami that I just realized. Speaking
Go
of
for it.
Halloween, when I was dressed as a conscript, I had an evil, cunning plan with Sudeep. I borrowed
Ooh, yes.
one of Dinkar's shirts. I borrowed one of his chip review shirts. That thing whose name I shall never speak again. I borrowed one of his shirts, and I didn't tell him why. And then Sudeep shows up late to the party. We're on stage. We're mid-song, whatever song it was that we're playing. And then I see Sudeep waving sheepishly at me in the front row. I'm like, you son of a bitch. You're like an hour late. But I decided, cool. And I just like look over at somebody. I'm like, you, whoever I looked at, take a solo. While I run to the back of the stage, rummage through mid-song, whatever the hell song it was, mid-song, run to the back of the stage, open up my bag, pull out said TCR shirt, and I chuck it at Sudeep. And the idea was, I was a member of Dink's Army, and Sudeep was Dinkar. And it now dawns on me, it dawns on me that I forgot to ask for the shirt back.
So Sudeep has the TCR shirt now?
So now Team Suds is wearing TCR merch. He's
are
gone
you
behind
stressed?
enemy lines and has
Yeah,
never
he's
left.
a prisoner of war.
He's never left.
Your shirt.
Yeah.
You realize this is how Dink's Army wages war. We just bring everyone into our fold.
Okay,
T-shirt
fine.
fold?
We're going to take a break, and then we'll come back and actually review the Geek Fruit podcast.
Isn't that the theme of the show? That we're taking
in a
break?
moment. In a moment.
Namaskar, this is Ashish Vidyarthi. Yes, my friend, these are challenging times, but in these challenging times, we can create something extraordinary. Do take time to listen to my podcast, Begin the Journey, available on the IVM Podcast, website, app, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Remember, we have a great opportunity called life. Cheers.
Hey everybody, we're back. We're talking about the Geek Fruit podcast. This great show that we did for about 5 years. So it's been 5 years. Can you tell me, you guys, about any episodes that kind of spring to mind? If somebody said, "Where's a great place to start with the Geek Fruit podcast?" and you didn't want to say at the beginning,
Imagica.
Imagica.
I think that was our one and only
didn't do that.
location.
It was never released, was it?
On location.
Imagica
No.
and Jurassic World were episodes we recorded.
Recon
before the
episode
podcast.
9, Recon mission, Imagica.
Recon
Last year at an
mission.
undisclosed
right.
time, the Geek Fruit team went on a Black Ops mission not to be revealed until now. A clandestine visit to the theme park known as Imagica. Did it hold up against their claim as an international standard theme and amusement park?
Yes and no.
Yeah, not really. I think I
That's
gave
the
it.
no part.
I think I gave it a solid B minus, and I stand by
it's
that.
well worth a B minus.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
But that was great. That was a fun time.
That was a fun time. We should do it again when we
Have a show again.
when we have a show again. We can.
Why can't we
when
go
the
to a
world-
theme park just for fun, Jishnu?
I went
No.
just for fun to shoot a music video there.
Theme
And
park
it
just
was,
would make it
You
content.
went to shoot a music video. You went to shoot
Yeah.
you went to record a podcast.
Yeah.
Go for fun. Come for fun.
Nah, fun? What is fun?
Fun is going to a place without content in mind. Anyway, I did enjoy that time at Imagica, but I think because we got trashed within the first 5 minutes of
Yep.
being there.
Yep.
That was great.
I got
And
one.
not a great idea. Tell me then, Kar.
I want to talk about Geek Fruit v. Snyder, Dawn of Outrage, an early episode. Episode
an earlier
13,
one.
in fact.
What? It was that early? Oh, I didn't
I
expect
see
it
a
to be that
theme
early.
here, guys. Our best days are far behind us.
No, it's well,
No,
I
no,
don't
no,
know
no.
it's the
I
best
disagree.
episode of the
I-
Geek Fruit podcast by any stretch. In fact, it's a middling episode, but I have a particular reason that
Go on.
I'm talking about it. I'm not saying
Yes.
this is the best of. It's an episode I want to talk about.
Yeah.
So this was done in the first studio we were recording in. And I
Yes.
distinctly remember it being the moment I kind of figured out what the podcast could be. It wasn't us coming in with necessarily well put together reviews of films, because basically what I said at one point was uh, Tejas was fairly neutral about the movie. I think you were not a fan of the movie. This is, of course, Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. I think Jishnu you were not a fan, and Tejas, you were fairly neutral. And I, at that point, liked it, with, of course, several caveats that we have discussed many times over the years. But basically, I said, if I remember the moment, I'm probably paraphrasing, but the way I'm picturing it in my head is you guys talked about why you don't like the movie, and Tejas, you went like, okay, Dinkar, you like this movie. Tell us about it. And I was like, I like this movie, and I'm going to figure it out over the next few years why I do. And at that point, I realized that's what the show is. It's just us like discussing our feelings about movies as opposed to our thought out opinions about them. We're a show about feelings,
Yes.
man. And that's why
A
I
show
want to
about
mention this one.
feelings. That's a great episode. Another episode that brings that same vibe out, I felt, was the episode which I feel kind of exposed us a little bit also, which was the crimes of Grindelwald.
One of my
because
favorites.
I believe we started to talk about the film like professional critics,
And then
and like we were just like, oh, and then it just went to like shit. Like literally in the last, like when we couldn't hold back anymore how bad this movie actually was, and when we kind of discuss it, it just becomes like clear to us that this is poop on a stick.
We were literally
This
like,
movie.
the moment that stands out to me there is about like 5 minutes away from the end of the episode, we bring up the Mr. Who, Mr.
God.
Something character, who is one of the most useless parts of that entire movie. And we realized we spent
I
an
remember-
hour and change like just complaining about everything in the movie, and we didn't even bring up like an entire subplot that was completely useless, at which point we just like lost it and
We
laughed
just descended
for
on that
45
film, I
seconds straight.
think. Yeah. It
To be
was just
fair-
so funny. Yes.
To be fair, I think poop on a stick is one of the best ways you can get poop, because it shows that there's like structural integrity to it. So it's like there's good
Yes,
fiber
that's
in that.
important.
If it's loose poop, it'll never end up on a stick unless you freeze it, and nobody likes cold poop. So
Yes, I know. We've only
That's-
been having warm poop all this time.
that gives the movie a bit of credibility. The fact that it at least has some,
Gotcha.
fiber in its diet.
Another. This is actually a perfect example of why this podcast is what it is. The other episodes which we should talk about. Well, two things. One is the live episodes. Are so much fun to listen to now that I go back and sometimes check them out.
How many do we
hilarious. We have a fair few, maybe about 3 or 4.
Did we
which
just
are
do them?
live.
I was trying to think of this. Did we only do them for every century that we hit?
Or every half century, something like that. 250, I think we did, or 200. Maybe we've done only 3 or 4. No, so we have the Geek Fruit Cantina episodes, which are live, and we have the like landmark
hundreds.
milestone
Yeah,
episodes. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, man, I think all of those are really funny. And the second thing I wanted to talk about was the sub series that we did, whether it was the Nolan series, What a Cartoon, Back to the Franchise. All of those are really good. And I think like I was listening to the Batman Forever one again, and the Spider-Man. I think the Batman Forever one I was listening to. But man, I apart from it being like really random, but there's some facts in there, man. Like even the Han YOLO episode where we talk about Han Solo, or the Stan Lee episode that Jishnu and I did. It was like a nice encapsulation of facts, obviously, that you would probably not heard, but also just like our opinions on how we feel about these franchises and these people. And it's always been fun to do. And I think it's great. When we're at our best, I think we were really good at doing both of those things. Otherwise, it's like chaos, and that's another side of it.
Yes.
All right. Cool. So podcast coming to a conclusion for the time being. Do you guys have any thoughts on what we can spin off of this show into? Like tell us a little bit about the video endeavors that we're going to be embarking upon.
Well-
Well, this feels like a meeting now, but
Just so that people know what we're going to go on to next. Yeah.
What we're going to do is spin off some of the things we talk about into more focused shows, essentially. They might be video, they might not. We will see. But we're going to be talking about cartoons for sure. So What a Cartoon, a wildly successful franchise, will probably continue in some shape or form. We do a quiz show, which is, again, well, not directly a spin-off, but we spent at least 3 very good episodes talking about quiz shows. And now we do a quiz. And my expectation is that we'll end up doing more things along these lines, where we're taking the many, many things. I think one of the things we've discovered in the course of doing this podcast is that there's a lot of stuff we want to do and a lot of stuff we want to talk about. Because when we started this, we were like, we'll talk about sci-fi and maybe fantasy and like sometimes other stuff. But now we kind of cover a wide range of pop culture. We spent ages just talking about like music or musicals or rom-coms or quizzes, all of which were not initially under our purview. But now, just because of the people we are like very much a part of what Geek Fruit is. So
our
I
true
expect...
selves.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So I expect all of these, basically they were all living under one roof and their style was getting cramped. So they're all going to become their own thing, man. It's a family of Geek Fruit stuff.
I suggest that in the last 2 episodes we have, apart from getting guests and stuff to come on board, I want to quickly ask you guys to prep for the next episode and come in with all the things that you wanted to review, but we haven't. Like, for example, one movie I wanted you guys to watch, but you didn't, was John Wick.
Oh, John. Wow. Okay.
The Accountant. Okay, you've seen John Wick. But Jishnu, John Wick, The Accountant. Oh my God, so many movies, so many things.
Yeah, this could take
Come in with your best. We have to quickly review everything before the world ends.
Let's
just put it that way.
Before the podcast ends.
Before the podcast ends.
If we can review everything before the podcast ends, then there's a good reason to shut it down. We're done. There's nothing left to talk about.
Yeah, exactly.
Can I just watch the trailers and just call it a day?
Do whatever you want, Jishnu. Do whatever you want. Okay?
I like it.
And we will see you guys next week with a different kind of episode. I'm not sure what we're going to be doing. We might have some guests to join us who have been with us over the years. And also, we're going to review every single thing in the multiverse. This is an episode of the Geek Fruit Podcast.
Entertainment is like food for the brain. It's a window to culture and a great way to understand the world around us. The internet has changed what it means to be an entertainer, creating new storytellers with millions of fans. It has spawned a new breed, the story-sellers, those behind the scenes creating the business for this ecosystem. They work with brands, platforms and channels who are keen to capitalize on an audience hungrier than ever for more stories. I'm Vineet Kanabar, and I have a ringside view to how stories are told and sold. On my show, I bring you creators, artists, executives, and marketers for a freewheeling conversation around the business of entertainment. Tune in to Storytellers and Story Sellers for personal stories, analysis, and criticism every Thursdays as I talk to the brightest minds telling or selling great stories today.
बेटा, did you know 79% of all scientists in NASA are Indian only?
देखो, इंडिया में टैक्स सिर्फ मिडिल क्लास भरती है. Everyone is just enjoying free यार.
आजकल के youngsters are only interested in partying and enjoying. उनको देश की पड़ी ही नहीं है.
बेटा तुम बस शादी कर लो, उसके बाद तो you can enjoy life like anything.
I will tell you what this country needs. This country needs 15 years of dictatorship. That is the only way to become a superpower. See the Chinese, how much they've progressed.
सुनो, तुमने ये WhatsApp forward देखा?
So what's common between all of these statements?
They're all absolutely rubbish.
Fake WhatsApp forwards that spread like wildfire.
And statements that defy any logic.
We are here to debunk them all.
Way of family WhatsApp groups, worst nightmare. Where what happens when you read a book.
Basically, we're just a bunch of guys who want to cut through the bullshit of everyone saying this, how it won't be true.
So that the next time someone confidently squeezes out some WhatsApp or Twitter BS, you can look them dead in the eye and go, Uncle, please sit.
So join me, Joel.
And me, Tushar.
Every Mondays for a fresh new episode of Uncle, Please Sit.